You are listening to the Cricket Corner podcast with me, Vatsal Vora. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cricket Corner podcast with me, Vatsal Vora. This is a pretty different kind of an episode. This is a recap of what Indian team has done throughout the calendar year of 2023. I guess we have all seen Team India play for majority of the times in 2023, but this episode is kind of a TLDR. We'll look into the downsides, we'll look into the positives, and we'll talk about some individual performances as well. So I've structured this podcast into two different sections. In the first part of this episode, we'll talk about Team India as a team. So in general, what the team did. And in the second half of this podcast, we'll talk about some individual performances, some unsung heroes and people like that. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well. And without further ado, let's start by talking about Team India in general and what they did in 2023. If you personally ask me, India have had a brilliant year in 2023, and that is saying something because in the grand scheme of things, we have lost two finals. We lost the World Test Championship and the World Cup final to Australia. But keeping those two results aside, and I know for a fact that it is really, really difficult for an Indian fan to keep those two results aside. But for once, give me a chance and let's put those two results to the side. Indian team played some outstanding cricket. I have some stats here from our performances in all three formats. We played 8 test matches. We won 3 of them and we lost 3 of them. Now, those 3 defeats were important defeats as well. There was obviously the World Test Championship final defeat to Australia at the Oval. We recently lost the first test match against South Africa at Centurion. And the third defeat came against Australia again in the third test match at Indore in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, which was almost a year ago now. I think it was played in February and March. As far as ODI cricket is concerned, we played 35 one-day internationals, won 27 of them and lost just 7. Yes, one of those defeats was the World Cup final. We'll talk about that in just a moment. India didn't play a lot of T20 cricket because 2023 was the year of the Cricket World Cup. So even the Asia Cup, which we played prior to the World Cup, was not a T20 format, in fact, and it was a one-day international format. India played 23 T20s. We won 15 of them and lost 7. I think T20 cricket is something we can skip over as far as 2023 is concerned. We cannot skip that in 2024 because we have the 2024 T20 Cricket World Cup coming up in the West Indies and the United States. But that is something not for this podcast. Over here, we are going to talk about 2023. So, judging by the record which I just mentioned earlier in the podcast, India have played quite well. They have had very few defeats, but those few defeats have been important matches, and that's where the problem lies for Team India, because they play some good cricket, but when it comes to an important game, they fall conservative. I must say they fall into their cocoons a bit, play conservative cricket, play safe cricket, and are kind of under pressure as well to perform and succeed. So that is something which could have been the factor why there have been few defeats, but those few defeats have been important ones. I want to talk about 5 tournaments as we recap calendar year of 2023, and we want to start off by talking about the World Cup. It felt like it was a World Cup for India to lose. Prior to the World Cup, everyone thought and understood the fact that Team India are the favorites for the tournament. When the tournament started and the way in which Team India were playing their cricket, it felt like, well, the pre-season assumptions were correct and Team India are going to walk this World Cup. Won 9 matches in group stages, won all 9 of them, won the 10th game against New Zealand in Mumbai in the semi-finals of the World Cup. But when it came to that final in Ahmedabad, India just weren't able to pull out their A game, and Australia, with all of their team playing as one, just took the World Cup away from Team India as Australia claimed their 6th title. We have talked a lot about the World Cup final defeat on this podcast, on this platform, so I'm not going to dwell a lot into that one. But in the grand scheme of things, India lost just 1 game in the World Cup. They played 11 games, they lost just 1, but the loss was the one which would hurt the most as far as Team India is concerned, because there goes our chance of winning the World Cup again until 2027, and we don't know for a fact that who would form part of that team 4 years down the line, because a lot of players who are important players in Team India's ODI team currently are getting older and are almost into the twilight of their careers. We are seeing the likes of Rohit Sharma, even Virat Kohli to an extent, are towards the fair end of their career, and we're not sure how longer they could persist playing ODI cricket in what is a really bizarre situation where there are 3 formats and Test cricket is something taking the ascendancy slowly and steadily in Team India's fortune. So not sure how that will pan out, but that final defeat was really hard to take. But apart from that, the one-day cricket India played in that particular World Cup was just phenomenal. Aggressive batting, aggressive bowling in the power play, some really good bowling in the middle overs and in the death overs as well. So apart from the final, that is, I think India played some outstanding cricket and we should all be proud of. But credit to Australia in the end for lifting not only the World Cup but the T20, the World Test Championship final as well. I think Harsha Bhogle made a really interesting point in the Crick Buzz review, and I want to say that out again. He said that India were always on the back foot heading into the World Test Championship final at the Oval because they've just come out of the IPL. IPL is something which is very important, not only to the Indian fans but to the BCCI and the Indian players as well. So you cannot blame Team India for wanting to play the entirety of the Indian Premier League, because it is in the end the Indian Premier League and you want your Indian stars to play in most of the games. So that is, I'm not blaming them for doing that. But then again, when you have an important ICC tournament coming up, do you then have a focus on that as well, or do you just want to just finish off with the Indian Premier League and then concentrate on the World Test Championship final, or you want World Test Championship final to be at the back of your minds? Possibly that can even hamper your performances in the IPL as well. So it's a two-edged sword again, and India were always going to be coming in as second favourites in the World Test Championship final, not only because of the Indian Premier League and the fixture congestions, but also because of the conditions. India have played some outstanding Test cricket on home soil, but when the final is at a venue which suits, I guess, Australia a little bit more, not that I'm making excuses or anything out of it, but it's really sad to see that the World Test Championship final was never a priority. And I guess even if you ask a casual Indian fan walking down the street and you ask him which final hurt you the most, I guess 99% of the people casual fans that is, would say the World Cup final hurt more than the World Test Championship final. Not saying that it's not important, but I can kind of understand the fact why India lost that one, because yes, India lost the World Test Championship final as well, but we had some outstanding Test cricket as played some outstanding test cricket. Sorry, I can't speak. We played some outstanding test cricket. The likes of Shubman Gill had a good year. Mohammad Siraj had a good year with the new ball. Ashwin always performs in test matches. Ravindra Jadeja showed why he is the number one all-rounder in the format. We are seeing the resurgence of Virat Kohli. Even Rohit Sharma had a good year in test matches. So India have played good test cricket. It's just that in the final we were always second favourites. So those are the two downsides of Team India's performances in 2023. Now let's look at some positives, shall we? And the positives for me start with the Asia Cup. India were head and shoulders the best team, not only in Asian cricket but in world cricket as well, and it showed that during the Asia Cup, which was a couple of months before the World Cup. India played some outstanding cricket in that tournament. KL Rahul scoring a century against Pakistan, Virat Kohli scoring one as well. There was a good knock by Ishan Kishan in the first match against Pakistan. I think Hardik Pandya played an important knock in that game as well. And who can forget the amazing final which we played against Sri Lanka, which was probably one of the most one-sided matches you will ever see in a major final. So the Asia Cup final, where Mohammad Siraj picked up 6 wickets in the final, and it was just mesmerizing to see how well he has transcended his game, and he is now one of India's pick bowlers, if you personally ask me, because earlier in the time Mohammad Siraj was always under the shadow of the likes of Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami. Now granted, both of those two players are still playing really, really well in one-day cricket, in test cricket, in whatever format you take, but Mohammad Siraj has just upped his game a little. Yes, he had a poor World Cup final, but apart from that, he was just outstanding in all formats, and it showed that on the Asia Cup final stage, where he picked up 6 for 21, bundled Sri Lanka out for just 50 runs, and India just chasing it out in 6 overs time. Not to forget, this was played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo, and beating hosts so badly is something which would be right up there if you look back at 2023 and the calendar year of 2023 and want to strike the positives out. I think the Asia Cup final would be right up there. Also want to talk about something which was big for a certain group of players, not so big for some fans or some players involved, but I think winning the gold medal at the Asian Games was probably something which has gone under the radar, and I wanted to talk particularly about the Asian Games because of the quality of the players which form part of that squad, because the Asian Games was played just a week or two before the World Cup. So India, understandably, not only Team India but other big nations competing in the Asian Games in China, made sure that they sent their B side or the second string side. But again, India's bench is so strong, and it showed that during the Asian Games, captained by Ruturaj Gaikwad. There were some amazing players in that squad who have a really bright future heading into 2024 and beyond. The likes of Captain Ruturaj Gaikwad, Yashasvi Jaiswal was there as well, Arshdeep Singh, there's obviously Rinku Singh, there is Shivam Dubey amongst others as well, Shai Kishore also forming part of that squad which won the gold medal. So I think that is something which is not talked about a lot. Yes, we were all happy when India won the gold medal, even the ladies winning the gold medal at the Asian Games in China, but it has gone slightly under the radar because of Asia Cup happening before that and the World Cup happening after that. It has been just dust under the carpet, but I just wanted to bring it out of that carpet and talk about and give credit where credit is due to these young players who are now coming into the Indian setup and performing at the highest level. And finally, let's move away from international cricket for a short period of time and talk about the to talk about the Indian Premier League, I think the 2023 IPL was one of the best tournament, if not the best tournament in IPL history. And I think we say it all at every given point in time that this IPL is the best. And then the next IPL comes and we say this IPL is the best. And then the next IPL comes and we say this IPL is the best. And it just keeps happening. I think the cycle just goes on and on and on. But I personally feel and I strongly believe that the 2023 IPL was just the best in recent history because of a number of reasons. I think home and away returning was a big factor. It was the first Indian Premier League in 3 years which was not affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So that it was a full-fledged tour. The crowds were full-fledged tournament. The crowds were allowed in without any restrictions, and 10 teams playing all over the country was what IPL stands for. It felt like a 2-month festival, which is something IPL has always been apart from those COVID period. But credit to the IPL for coming back into full string. And what a final we had against the Chennai Super Kings and the Gujarat Titans, 10-win off 2 deliveries in the final, and Ravindra Jadeja hits one down the ground of Mohit Sharma and then just flicks one down to find leg for a boundary to win Chennai Super Kings their 5th IPL title. And also we have to talk about Mahendra Singh Dhoni and how well he has led his CSK side in the IPL. That is, everyone for a fact thought that this is Mahendra Singh Dhoni's final IPL and he's having his last dance and he's just won and he's going to retire on a high, but he wants to come back. He's so fit. He's still so fit. I think he's still one of the best wicket keepers in the IPL, regardless of him being 42, and he's still motivated enough to get that knee surgery done. He'll be in rehab, he'll fit hard, he'll train hard, he'll be fit and fine, and he'll come back to play yet another season of the Indian Premier League, which we all would say will be his last, but you never know with MS Dhoni and his ridiculous fitness. I think the one thing which I liked about Mahendra Singh Dhoni in the 2023 IPL is that he understood for a fact that he cannot contribute a lot with the bat, but he's still an excellent captain and a wicket keeper. So he made sure he'll come at number 7, he'll come at number 6, he'll give youngsters and other players a chance to score runs freely. But when he just walks out, he's just bombarded by the fans and all the cheering, all the yellow t-shirts which we saw at not only Chepauk but every other stadium in the IPL. And I think Mahendra Singh Dhoni was the reason why this IPL will be fondly remembered for a long period of time. So that is Team India and its domestic cricket in the form of IPL, which was played in 2023. Stay tuned for the second half of this podcast where we talk about some individual performances and what India have to look forward to in the calendar year of 2024. Yeah, stay tuned. Let's move our attention and talk about some of the individual brilliance we witnessed in 2023. And I want to start by talking about the player which impressed me the most, and that is Shubman Gill. Shubman Gill had the perfect year, if you personally ask me, from a batsman, performing in one-day international, performing in test cricket, performing in T20 cricket, and also in the IPL. He was one of, if not the player of the year as far as Indian cricket is concerned. 1,584 runs scored in one-day internationals, an IPL season consisting of 890 runs. He scored centuries in all 3 formats, and it includes a double century in one-day internationals as well, something which is not easy to do, unlike what Glenn Maxwell showed us against Afghanistan in the final. But that century, something people might not remember because it happened way early into the 2023 calendar year. I think it was against New Zealand, if you personally ask me. This was even before the Border Gavaskar Trophy. in February. So, and yeah, he also scored 100 against Australia in Ahmedabad in the fourth test match. So that's that. But yeah, 890 run IPL is no joke, because we feel like anything above 750 is an outstanding year, and he's done it by scoring 890 runs. That century against the Royal Challengers Bangalore is something which is still fresh in my mind, because we had just seen 100 scored by Virat Kohli, and just hours later we are seeing 100, if not better one, scored by Shubman Gill, and it felt like a passing of baton from the king to the prince. Shubman Gill has a lot of promise, and he's shown that in 2023, but I think 2024 is going to be a really big year as far as Gill is concerned, only because he is now captain of the Gujarat Titans, a franchise in just 2 seasons has done some remarkable stuff. In 2 seasons, they've eclipsed the likes of Punjab King, Gujarat Titans, who have been in the IPL since the very beginning and have actually won the Indian Premier League. So he's got big boots to fill of Hardik Pandya, and I really want to see how he manages his batting by having the pressure of being a captain. So a lot to look forward to if you are a Shubman Gill fan. But as far as his 2023 is concerned, he has had an excellent year. From the prince, let's move to the king and talk about Virat Kohli, because I think since the COVID pandemic, I think this is the return of Virat Kohli as well. We said goodbye to the pandemic and we welcomed Virat Kohli with an open arms. Yes, there is no correlation between the pandemic and Virat Kohli, but it felt like during those pandemic years, Virat Kohli was not in his best of forms, but in 2023, he just escalated all expectations and was just outstanding. He scored 1,377 runs in one-day internationals, of which 765 runs were scored in the World Cup, making him the highest run scorer in a single World Cup tournament. Scored 300s in that aforementioned World Cup against Bangladesh, against South Africa in Kolkata, and in the semi-finals against New Zealand in Mumbai. Not to mention the 100 which he scored against Pakistan in the Asia Cup as well, and forming a brilliant partnership along with KL Rahul. Virat Kohli has had a brilliant year. He scored 2 centuries in Test cricket as well. He scored 1 against Australia in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, and again in the West Indies. I also want to talk about the brilliance and the re-emergence of Rohit Sharma. Rohit Sharma has had a relatively quiet year with the bat, and I say relatively because we have already talked about Shubman Gill and Virat Kohli. If you talk about Rohit Sharma, he's had a good year himself. He scored hundreds in test matches. He scored 100 in the World Cup against Afghanistan at the Firozshah Kotla in New Delhi. So he has had good moments with the bat. But I personally want to talk about Rohit Sharma as the skipper, because he just came out there and decided that India is going to play with a certain brand of cricket, and I will myself start India's innings by playing the way in which I want the whole team to play. I lead by an example. I'll show how good I am, and I want my team to play in the way I did. And that is so selfless, if you personally ask me, and I think it was talked about very highly during the World Cup that Rohit Sharma just came out all guns blazing. He gave India some quick fire 40, 50, 60, 70 runs here and there. When he was dismissed, India were already playing at a run rate of 7.5, 8 runs and over. And giving such stats made sure that your middle order, the likes of KL Rahul, the likes of Shreyas Iyer, who are just returning to international cricket after a long-term injury, they have a chance to not only settle down, get used to the conditions and play their natural game. And that is something Rohit Sharma allowed these players to do, and I think that is very creditable. He played in attacking style, not only on the field, but while he was batting as well. And that was just excellent to see. Now, there have been question marks surrounding his captaincy heading into the T20 World Cup in 2024, because he's been replaced as captain as the Mumbai Indians captain in place of Hardik Pandya. Not sure whether BCCI would follow that suit as well. If you personally ask me, there is nothing to worry about. I think the 2024 T20 World Cup would probably be Rohit Sharma's final tournament, and that too as captain. So I personally want him to stay. I think he has unfinished business. He was someone who really wanted India to win the World Cup for the first time since 2011, and I want to see him get a second bite at the cherry, and help India go further into the World Cup, T20 World Cup that is, and possibly even win it. We've talked about 3 batsmen here: Shubman Gill, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. Now let's talk about the individual bowling brilliance which we saw in 2023 across formats. There's obviously someone like Ravichandran Ashwin, who always performs in the red ball game, picked up close to 40 wickets, I think 41 wickets, and he showed why he is one of the best bowlers in Test cricket. But 2 bowlers impressed me in limited overs, and those were Mohammad Siraj and Kuldeep Yadav. Kuldeep Yadav ending 2023 with India's leading wicket taker in ODI cricket. He picked up 49 wickets as India's primary spinner. I think 2023 would be remembered as a year of Kuldeep Yadav's comeback, ever since he's increased his pace, and his pace while bowling those spin bowls. I think he has just taken his game to another level, and I think it has shown. And that has been shown across 2023. So I'm really happy to see Kuldeep Yadav back in form, and I think he is now ready to play red ball cricket as well if India need a leg spinner in their team and want to replace the likes of, I don't know, maybe Ashwin in the long run. Yes, 2 different kind of bowlers, but there's obviously Kuldeep Yadav there, who's had test match pedigree before, but since then he's drifted away. But now that he's made a strong comeback in one-day international cricket, I think test match call-up is just around the corner as far as Kuldeep Yadav is concerned. The second bowler which impressed me the most is that of Mohammad Siraj. I think we talked about him earlier in this podcast, didn't we? About how he has just upped his game as now one of India's pick of the bowlers, despite Shami and Bumrah still being relevant. Mohammad Siraj picking up 44 wickets in one-day international, and I'll just briefly mention what he did to Sri Lanka, picking up 6 for 21 as they were bundled out for just 50 runs in the final of the Asia Cup. There's obviously Mohammad Shami, who was outstanding. Wasn't one of India's go-to bowlers early on in 2023, but he showed his class when he came back into the team in the World Cup. Played just 7 matches in the World Cup, but went ahead and picked up 24 wickets. Playing just 7 matches and ending as tournament's leading wicket taker is just outstanding and never heard of. And he was just brilliant with the new ball. Whenever he bowled with the new ball in the power play, those 4 or 5 overs were guaranteed wickets. We all knew and at times took it for granted that Mohammad Shami would take wickets, and 9 times out of 10 he did, and it was just beautiful to see him with the new ball along with Jasprit Bumrah as well. Usually he came in as the first change after Bumrah and Siraj shared the new ball, but the ball was still relatively new for Mohammad Shami to get that swing and get those early wickets. And lastly, I want to talk about some individual performances from Team India's youngsters, particularly Yashasvi Jaiswal and Ruturaj Gaikwad. Ruturaj Gaikwad and Yashasvi Jaiswal, I personally feel like they are battling it out for the same opening slot in the future, because if you personally ask me, Team India have an opener settled for in that limited overs format in the form of Shubman Gill. I think Shubman Gill is not going anywhere, if you personally ask me, from the opening slot in one-day internationals and in T20. We are seeing it in test matches recently that he's coming in at number 3 with Jaiswal opening with Rohit Sharma. We saw that in South Africa and also in the West Indies. But I think both Jaiswal and Ruturaj Gaikwad are battling it out to be the opening partner alongside Shubman Gill in limited overs format, and I think both of them have had excellent years. Jaiswal scoring a century in West Indies in Test cricket, also scoring a century in T20 cricket as well. Ruturaj Gaikwad recently scoring a century against Australia in the T20 series which started right after the Cricket World Cup, and he also captained the Indian side to the gold medal in the Asian Games, so he has some pedigree there as well. As far as his leadership is concerned, many are touting him to become Chennai Super Kings' next captain once MS Dhoni eventually hangs up his gloves. But yeah, Jaiswal and Ruturaj Gaikwad are right up there. Both of them had brilliant IPL seasons as well, so it's going to be a really, really fascinating, friendly kind of a battle because both of them, as I said, are vying out for that opening slot. Well, you never know, if both of them are good enough, then Shubman Gill can be the long-term replacement for Virat Kohli at number 3, and then you can see both Jaiswal and Ruturaj Gaikwad open in the future with Gill coming in at number 3. You never know that. But yeah, those two were really impressive. So was Rinku Singh. I think 2023 was the breakout year for Rinku Singh. Had an outstanding IPL, will always be remembered for scoring 5 sixes against Yash Dayal to win KKR the game, and then he's taken that form into international cricket as well once he eventually got his international cap. He was part of the Asian Games as well, but we saw that against the Australians in the series which I mentioned whilst talking about Ruturaj Gaikwad. He was the finisher which India wanted all along, and I don't see any reason why he's kept behind and not taken in, and he's not part of the squad heading into the 2024 T20 World Cup. And lastly, Arshdeep Singh has had a good year as well. He was really, really good for Punjab in the Syed Mushtaq Ali. He's carried that form not only into the T20 side but also into the one-day side, so I expect big things from him, and I think Arshdeep was one of India's better bowlers coming up in 2023. There's obviously Avesh Khan and Mukesh Kumar over there as well, but I think Arshdeep Singh is one who had a brilliant 2023. So that was it as far as Team India's cricket is concerned in 2023. What do India have to look forward to in 2024? And I've picked up 3 tournaments. The first one is coming in just a couple of weeks' time at the time of recording this podcast, and that is England's Tour of India. England, Ben Stokes led England, the best bowling sensations are coming to Team India to play 5 test matches, and it is going to be fascinating to see how baseball is able to play on Indian pitches and in Indian conditions, because if they have revolutionized test cricket, but the Indian conditions and playing against India and probably winning against India will still be seen as a final frontier. There have been a lot of question marks surrounding lot of talking points surrounding England's squad which they announced for the test series, but and many suggesting that if England don't lose 5-0, it will mean that they have played good cricket. I'm not quite sure what will happen, but that is one big tournament, one big series that India has to look forward to ahead of the 2024 IPL. The second key thing which will happen with Team India and all other teams is the T20 World Cup in the West Indies and the USA. And lastly, India will end the calendar year of 2024 with a trip to Australia to play in the Border Gavaskar Trophy yet again. So a lot of good cricket to look forward to, but India will do that as time comes up. I think India have had an excellent 2023, and I'm really happy with how they have played. Yes, a couple of those matches didn't go our way, but in the end, that's sport, and losing is just part of the game. It can happen to the best of lot, and I think India can take a lot of pride in how they have played their cricket in 2023. So that is it from me in this calendar year. I hope you guys have had a great year like Team India did, and I hope you are looking forward to seeing them in 2024. Till then, Happy New Year to everyone. Stay safe, stay happy, and yeah, ciao for now for one last time in 2023.